to record the lesson. So as we relax down into the floor in our in this lesson, we're going to use the ground for feedback, really. It's like a big kinetic mirror. The ground tells us so much about what the body is doing in this here and now moment. We can tell a lot about how the hips are resting into the floor. We can tell a lot about how the shoulders are resting into the floor. We can tell a lot about how the spine rests into the floor. Let's take a few moments just picturing the spine and its length. From the back of the neck, through the ribs, through the tailbone. And then noticing the gaps behind the body. And tuning into the lumbar spine and the space behind the neck. And using the ground for feedback. For the ribs and for the arms. And for the legs, and for the knees, and for the calves, and the ankles and the feet. And just, check in, do each part of the body rest into the ground in the same way. Would you say that there's a lot of tension being held in the body? Is there any way you could think about, releasing a little bit more of the body into the floor? Just take some time just to become more aware of your breath in the centre of everything. Just taking all the time you need to breathe in and all the time you need to breathe out. Bringing some focus now to the back of the head and just begin to turn your head a few degrees from side to side. Just imagine you just learnt the art of saying no. And just letting the head feel as heavy as you can. Maybe just starting to turn your head that little bit more to the left, that little bit more to the right. Just let the head begin to...
Hello, sorry.
I was muted, sorry, I didn't realise that you were... let your head just begin to relax into the floor. And we're going to begin to move our spine, so this first movement can be done either seated or laying down. So standing both feet up in front of you. And just picture your footprints resting into the floor. And we're just going to begin just to let the feet be, very much in control of our body. Without moving the feet, try to pull the heels in towards the bottom and just feel how the tailbone begins to roll towards the floor, and we get a little arch in the lower back, and the spine actually is going into a gentle extension. And then without moving the feet, push the feet forwards and just allow that lower back just to begin to curl and soften. And again, without moving the feet, pulling the heels in towards the bottom and just allowing that movement just to float the body. So again, the lower back begins to rise, and again, without moving the feet, push the feet away, and we can just feel the lower back beginning to sink into the floor. So in all intents and purposes, we are arching and curling back with our feet. So as you're watching the feet and you're letting these feet move the body, get to know the joints of the feet and get to know the ankles and notice the spread of the toes sinking into the floor and follow the movement up into the knees. How do the knees feel as we move our feet? And then following the movement up through the joints of the legs to the hips, how do the hips feel as we move our feet? And as we are moving our feet, how does it feel in the lower back? Do we feel the joints of the spine moving? And just follow the movements of the spine. How does the spine move? And do you feel any movement in the head? Do you feel any nods of the head, any lifting of the chin, any dropping in of the chin? And just follow the movement. So the most peculiar places, maybe you can experience the movement in the hands. How do you feel the movement in the hands? All the while these feet are just pressing and pulling you forwards and backwards. And then just allow yourself just to release. So we can maybe extend our legs out in front of us. Maybe we're going to take ourselves into a little seated position. Maybe just with our hands resting to the floor. And again, just spend some time, again, just breathing in and just take all that time to take a delicious breath inwards and just let everything go as you breathe out. So coming back to that very same position that you just started with. So again, if you're laying on the floor, we've got both feet standing up in front of the hips. If you're sitting down, we've got our feet resting on the floor and you're leaning into your hands. You might even want to, if you can, maybe drop onto your elbows, although I find that's a bit more less comfortable on your neck. So we have two positions, one laying down, one with feet just taking a seat. And what we're going to do now is just use one foot at a time to roll across the hips. So let's start with our right foot and push into that right foot. Let your right hip lift across the floor. You're going to roll onto your left hip and then just allow yourself to sink back down. And then do it again, pushing with your right foot into the floor. Imagine you're going to push down and forwards, let your right hip lift, let your left hip lean into the floor, and again roll back onto your right hip. So if you're laying on the floor, just notice how far you can feel this movement. You're going to have both shoulders on the floor, and it might feel quite nice just to maybe even look over towards your right shoulder as you're doing this. And if you're doing a seated again, just turning your gaze to look towards your right shoulder. Just release into the floor for a second, and then let the left foot take charge. So again, it's a pushing down and forwards, and letting your left hip roll off the floor, moving onto your right hip, and again releasing down. And just doing that a few times, feeling your chest turning to the right, but you're going to let that left shoulder stay on the floor if you are laying on the floor. And if you're sitting, again, maybe you can notice your chest and your body turn to the right, but just turning your gaze again to look to your left shoulder. And each time you come and settle in the centre, just let your head roll back to the middle. And then let's have a little rest in the centre. And we're going to go into some circling of the hips. So again, use the feet to circle the hips, pulling the heels in towards the bottom, rolls you to tailbone. Pushing one foot away will roll you to one side, roll in towards the lower back, and then moving the feet again towards the buttocks will bring you back to seated. So try to use the feet to move the hips, pulling one heel in, both heels in, pushing one foot away, pushing both feet away will circle the hips. And then moving in the opposite direction if you haven't tried that already. There's a lot of coordination really. I think our bodies fall into habits, and it's just nice sometimes just to kind of wake up that connection between the mind and the limbs and challenge, and again just building again those neural connections between these underused places in the body. And then when you're ready, just allow again yourself just to maybe rest in Shavasana with your legs out extended in front of you. Or maybe coming into Sukhasana, if that is, if you're sitting. And again, just to check in on how you rest into the floor. So let's move ourselves up to seated and into a little wide-legged movement, a bit of a windscreen-wiping leg movement. So I've got shorts on with like a cycling shorts on, by the way. I'm not trying to terrify you with my legs today. Oh, I am. I tend to find if I wear black, you can't see me, so I am a bit sometimes feeling I should wear something where you can see my limbs and you can see what I'm doing. So feet are wide, hands on the floor, and we have done this a few times, and it's just about letting your knees drop to one side and letting one hip lift up off the floor, and then rolling across the footprints and letting the knees drop to the other side. We're going to let them really drop in and just think about letting that leg be really weightless, other hip roll comes off the floor, and again, taking your time and be gentle with yourself. Take your time, really gentle with yourself. And the biggest place I want your attention to be held is in the sides of your hips, in the muscles of your hips, and just think about really letting go of the weight of the knees. And as you're coming up, rather than thinking about knees, guys, I want you just spend some time just with the pelvis. In fact, let's just rest on one side. And I want you to just take some time just to slowly roll your pelvis back to the floor and let the movement of the pelvis let the knee come up. And then roll to the opposite side again, let go of the weight of the knees. And again, as you come down, think about the weight of the pelvis rolling back and let the weight of the pelvis, let the knee come up. And again, roll to the opposite side. And again, focus on the weight of the pelvis rolling back. And letting that lift the knees. And again, taking again all the time you need. It doesn't matter how long the journey is. Follow the journey its entirety. Just imagine that you've got no legs. And all that you've got is a pelvis. And just taking all that time to roll across the pelvis. It might be you're going to reposition the legs just so you can let the knees maybe go a little bit. I've noticed that my legs have moved a little bit further away from the body and it's kind of happening now a little bit easier. So maybe just try taking it a little bit further away from the body. And again, let the weight of the pelvis move the knees. Let the weight of the pelvis move the knees. And while you tune into this movement of letting the weight of the pelvis move the knees, you might just be able to take the hand that's behind the body off the floor and bring it around to the space in front of you. And again, take your time again to come out of the movement by letting the weight of the pelvis move the knees, and then you can slide the hand across the body, let it high on the floor, and then bring the other one round and maybe look across from behind the body. And again, to come out of the movement, let the pelvis move first, let the weight of the pelvis move the knees, let the weight of the pelvis move the hands, and again, take your weight across to the opposite side. So again, we're not pushing into the final movement, just let it come to a natural rest. So again, the weight of the pelvis moves the knees. And again, looking around the body behind. The weight of the pelvis moves the knees. Moving mainly because the pelvis wants to move. Just focus on the pelvis rolling from side to side and the rest of the body following. Little spiral and twist. And we can take ourselves again back to centre and just spend again a few moments just maybe you're going to lay back down, maybe you're going to take a little bit of time resting in Shavasana, that in Sukhasana. So just lay down if you need to, take a seat if you need to, and just spend some time again with the body, picturing and again using that ground as feedback. Noticing how the body rests into the floor, but particularly the pelvis. So the pelvis is a junction, I think, for the body, isn't it? You know, you've got that top half of the body with the arms and the spine, and then the bottom half of the body with these two legs, and that's the pelvis is a little junction. And the back of the pelvis in particular, the sacrum, is you know, it's not, you know, the pelvis isn't a fixed thing. It's got many different bones that connect and lots of muscles that connect in. The back of the hips is a massive myriad of muscles. And we're just noticing if any of these muscles are just beginning to let go of the grip. So let's take ourselves to seated for a moment, and we're going to move again, work with our hips a little bit. I'm just going to move this camera so I can sit a bit closer to the light and more visible with my legs. She says, yeah. So if you can sit with your feet out in front of you, maybe you're going to sit on a cushion, maybe you're going to sit on a block. Maybe you're going to not have any of these things, you're just going to sit on the floor. Tip my block away. And maybe you're going to sit on a really creaky floorboard, like I am. And all I want you to do is just bring your fingertips to the floor in front of you and walk them forwards. And just notice how this is the movement. So I'm not asking you to take yourself into the deepest of folds ever, but I just want you to walk your hands as far as they want to be. And then walk your hands back in towards the body. You're just going to see if you can make that a nicer movement in particular. So there's a few little things we can do. So we're going to bring the feet together, coming into something that resembles Baddha-Konasana, the cobbler's pose. Maybe this is going to feel excruciating. In fact, let's play with this first. So bring your feet into Sukhasana, so they're just going into our seated folded position, so folded legs position. And bring your hands onto your kneecaps. And we're going to tuck the tailbone under as we did, as we laid down, and just let the spine begin to soften, let your chin come in. And then from your pelvis, think about rolling the base of the pelvis forward, keep your bone coming towards the floor, and let the belly come forwards and let the spine begin to come forwards and up. And then again, tuck your tailbone under and move it into our curl position. So it's a seated version of our arch and flatten. So the tailbone is rolling away from you, belly lengthens forwards, heart begins to lift and come forwards. And again, tuck the tailbone under the body this time, and again, allow yourself to round and look a tune into the sensation of the bones and what they're doing. So basically, as we're tilting the pelvis forwards, the spine is doing its very best to stand up. And again, as we're tucking the tailbone under, again, that spine, because we've got all these muscles and ribs, it's doing its very best to stand up in the way it is. Doing that is just to let your head fall in. As you roll across the sit bones again, the spine stacking in order for it to try and keep it upright, the heart begins to lift and so does the gaze. And again, as we roll in the tailbone under, just following what the spine is trying to do. But then muscularly, there is an action. As we tell ourselves to roll the tailbone away, the back muscles are contracting, which is lifting the heart forwards. And as we took our tailbone under, the muscles on the front of the body are contracting, and the ribs are creeping closer to the pelvis. And the shoulders are rolling forwards. And again, as we roll across the sit bones, and again the heart comes forwards, we can feel those back muscles. And as we took the tailbone under, we can feel those front muscles beginning their little way of movement. So maybe you're going to spend some time feeling the muscles, maybe you're going to spend more time feeling the bones and what they're doing. And maybe at this point you just might want to just settle in the middle and bring your feet together in front of you. And to play with that same sensation again, tucking the tailbone under and rolling the tailbone forwards. And again, just following what the spine's doing. But I would say if you've got your feet together in front of you, again, just to pay attention to the pelvis and just to go gently, not to push into the deepest of movements. Again, you're very welcome. If this doesn't feel too good, again, just to bring your feet back to where it feels more comfortable. But also, each of these movements, you're always trying to look for good sensations. I think the moment you start to go into pain, that's when you're going into tightening, and we want to just be as gentle as we can with each of these movements. So just allow yourself again just to rest in the centre. And again, you might want to bring your heels back in underneath you, coming into Sukhasana, or you might be happy with your feet where they are. And we're going to bring our ribs across to the left and then across to the right. So keep your heart forwards, just moving across to the left and across to the right. And just feeling the action of the knees as you bring your weight across to the right, feeling your left knee pushing away from you. And as you come back to centre, knees relax, and as you bring your weight across to the left, your right knee is pushing away from you. And just tune into what the knees are doing. And then move back to centre and start to circle. And roll around the pelvis this time. And obviously going in the opposite direction. And then when you're ready, coming back to centre. So taking your legs out again in front of you, just dropping into, that little wide leg seated position. And just going to do one more little thing. So we did our little test movement, wasn't it, didn't we? Which was a seated walking forward of the hands. So again, if you need to have something again under your bottom, place it there. But if you're happy sitting without it, sit without it. And I want you just bring your hand up in front of you. Just imagine that you now become a little puppet. So, a puppet is lifeless. It has no energy of its own, but it's guided by strings, isn't it? So just picture that just around your right wrist, there is a little string, and someone's just beginning to lift it up. So just as lazy as you can, in fact, just bring the fingertips onto the floor in front of you, and then let the wrist lift up in front of you, and let the arm lift up in front of you, and just take it up maybe above the head, and whenever you're ready, just let the arm drop back to the floor, and then do that again. We're going to lift the arm up in front of us, above the head, and then when you're ready, drop it back down, and just do it a few times. Let the hands, so I don't need to think about moving the shoulder. In fact, just practice lifting in your normal way. You might feel it more in the shoulder, it might feel a little bit more rigid. So we're just going to, again, relax the hand off, and then think about being led with the wrist, and just feel how you can make that shoulder feel nice and light, and again, drop it back down. Just be guided by the wrist. And then think about doing is just bringing it in front of the shoulder, the hand. So just lift the hand up really easily in front of the shoulder. And then just picture that I've got a little string and I'm going to pull you forward through the screen, and let the wrist be pulled forwards. And just pull it forward a little bit, and notice how your chest turns to the left a little. And then bring it back, and then drop it back down. And then lift the arm up again. And then again, just imagine that I'm there, like with a little magnet. Ooh, bring the hand towards me, and feel how the chest turns a little bit to the left. And then bring it back, and then drop it down, and maybe explore going a little bit further to bring the arm forwards. Maybe just explore going a little bit further, and notice that as you do that, you're starting to roll through your pelvis, aren't you? And just let your spine stay straight. And then when you're ready, come back to sitting, and again, lower the arm. If you give it a bit of a shake, it gets a little bit tight, doesn't it then? So raise the arm, be led by the wrist. Again, feel how you begin to lean into this. Keep the arm if you can in front of the shoulder. Lean as far as you can. Notice how the chest is turned to the left. And then bring yourself back. And maybe just do it one more time. Looking over the left shoulder as you go. Again, just come back. And relax yourself down. I like your little modification there, Pat. So relax the shoulder down. So now just imagine that this, whoever's taking your wrist is going to bring it across towards your left leg. So we can raise the left arm. And again, this time bring it over the left leg. And be guided by the wrist. Keep floating the hand forwards beyond, over your left shin maybe, towards your left foot. And then again, come back to seat, and just place the arm back down and give it a good old rest. And then do it again, bring it up in front of you, turning your chest towards the left leg. And again, imagine somebody's pulling the wrist, your chest is turning to the left. And then whenever you're ready, bring it back and rest it back down. Let's do it again a few more times. Awareness to the sensation. We try to use as little effort as we can. And just rest your hands down and just feel all the sensations through that right side of the body, through the shoulder, the hip. And then we're going to do the same with the left hand. So for a few times again, first just lift the arm as you would normally do, and notice how it feels in the shoulder. And then let the arm relax, and then think about again that if someone's got a little string, they've tied it around your wrist, and they're going to lift it up very carefully up in front of you. And then let it drop. And again, let the arm lift up. And again, let it drop. And just look in front of the chest, maybe. Wrist guide you. And then whenever you're ready, just again picture someone's taking that wrist and is pulling you forwards. I know sometimes you might have been with a child and they're trying to guide you somewhere and they pull the wrist and you go with it. So again, as you bring that hand forward, let your chest turn to the right and maybe look over the right shoulder. And then bring yourself back and drop the hand down and just let go of that tension in the shoulder. And again, whenever you're ready, you bring the hand up and again, be guided by the wrist and start to let your chest turn to the right a little bit and bring back and drop the hand down. Keep the hand in front of the shoulder. Bring back and drop yourself back down. Lovely work, everybody. So just notice how, if you're being led by the hands, that it might feel that, you could be led with the hand forwards, but it might be nice just to let the chest turn a little bit. Maybe play with that actually. You can always play with coming with the chest forwards, or it might be nice just to play with leading with the hands and letting the chest turn a little bit too. A few times. Slowly on. This time we're going to look to our right leg, so again, picturing that whoever it is wants you to do something to the right. Maybe imagine that you've got something that, like a biscuit or something, hovering over your right foot and you want it. So we're going to raise the left hand and then turn it towards the right leg. And again, be guided by the wrist, magnetized to whatever it is that you want. And then bring yourself back and lower the hand down. And then just do that a few times. Raise it up, turn the chest, be guided by the wrist. And then placing your hands back down in front of you. Just give your shoulders a little bit of a wiggle, shoulders a bit of a shake, and just rest your fingertips into the floor. So I know that you're sitting there on a stool now, aren't you? So you're going to be bringing your hands down, the shins down towards your feet. So just let your hands guide you forwards. And just notice how it feels to come down into this place. It's a little bit easier than before. We loosened up a lot of these things that hold us in our just from sitting. And just let your hands come as far as they want to come forwards and allow yourself just to settle here for a moment. So I don't want you to see this as a stretch. We're not pushing into this. Just rest for a few moments in your breath. And whenever you're ready, walk your hands back up towards seating. Just do it a few times, walking your hands forward. It's all about just being as lazy as you can. Letting your hands guide you into your position. Just think about it as just being as lazy as you can through the neck. Again, walking your hands forwards. And if you want to rest in the motion in that moment, just allow yourself just to come to a comfortable rest in that final movement. So let's come back to seated, shall we? And let go of all that tension in the legs. So maybe you want to come and have a little rest down in Shavasana. Maybe you're going to just have a little rest in seated. So just take a good rest for a few moments and just tune into, again, the sensations of the body, all that you're feeling in the body, all the things that, all the feedback that we get from the body. We are going to do something else in seated in a second, so if you need to stay exactly where you are, stay where you are. So these rests are really important. These rests are all again about just getting to know how it is to be at rest and to have let some of these muscles to release, and just to let the brain know that it's okay to let go of things. Whenever you're ready, we're going to come again quietly back to seated, and we're going to do a few little lovely things with the shoulders. So I'm going to try and blend in a little sequence that I do in my yoga lessons. I did it earlier on this week, but we're not going to do all the legness with it. You'll be thankful. The leg movement that we do, there's a pose called goddess pose, which is, there's nothing goddess like it, I tell you. It's a horrible little sequence. I'll show you. I'm going to disappear off, but I don't care. It's a very simple. Goddess pose, it's this. So we're not doing that, but we're going to end up sending it for about 10 minutes when I teach it. But we're gonna do the arm section for that in a second. But I want to just come into swimming shoulders next. So typically this is done laying on your belly. So if you want to do this laying down on your belly, you're very welcome to. But I think it's nice to do sitting. We're going to picture our shoulders as being separate to the body. In fact, yeah, there's one little thing we can do just to make sure that we do know that. Firstly, bring your hands together in front of you and interlace the fingers and push them out in front of you. And I want you to keep your rib cage and your belly separate to the shoulders, if that makes any sense. So what I want you to do is just firstly just pull the navel in a little bit and shrug your shoulders back, and then push your shoulders forwards. I mean, I think I have a little bit of movement, but what I don't want you to do is this with the spine. You're trying to keep your spine still. Shrug your shoulders back. You can feel those hands come towards the body, and then from the shoulders, push the shoulders forward. So this is not the actual action. This is just to get yourself to be aware that the shoulders is separate to the wrists. So you get the shoulder blades sliding across the back. And you can feel the action of the muscles pulling them in and pushing them forward. Just get to know that first, and then drop them down, and then just let the shoulders relax for a second. And we just want to have the fingers in a really, really comfortable place. Let the elbows be in a comfortable place. So firstly, let's bring our focus to our right shoulder and just begin to push it forwards, roll it up, roll it back, and then drop it down. Push it forwards, lift it up, roll it back, and drop it down. And see if you can do it in as easy and as relaxed way as you can. So if you can notice your hand is sliding on your thigh, let it slide on your thigh. So what is moving the shoulder? It's the muscles, isn't it? So you've got the muscles at the front of the chest tightening, you've got the muscles of the neck tightening, you've got the muscles of the back tightening, and you've got them all relaxing just to let it fall into place. So at any given time, you've got agonist, antagonist muscles moving the shoulders. So I want you just to tune in to, as much as you can, the muscles at each given moment. Whichever one is doing the most movement, whichever one is lengthening, tuning to whichever one feels most spotlit in your mind. And then relax that shoulder, and we can then take it, the movement to the opposite shoulder. So again, push it forwards towards the ear, roll it back, and again drop it down. So push it forwards towards the ear, roll it back and drop it down. And again, notice those muscles, whichever one in your mind's eye are most apparent. So it's like you're doing a one-armed version of the backstroke. Then when you're ready, relax both arms, and we're going to go, like, imagine doing a backstroke on the back, that's sitting up without the arms. So push one shoulder forwards, roll it up, roll it back as the other shoulder comes forwards. And roll it back as the other shoulder comes forward. So just let the chest turn with it. If you're doing the backstroke, you'd have a beautiful little wiggle of your chest, wouldn't you? So let your chest turn with it, and just notice the shoulders circling. You know, it's a lot to be said for slowing it right down and having some really good time with the circle of each shoulder. Just letting everything just rest in the centre for a second. And then just think about doing the butterfly, but in reverse. That butterfly is a sweeping of the shoulders and bringing them forwards. We're going to go in reverse, imagine laying on your back and you sweep through the water on your back. So we're going to roll both shoulders forwards, up towards the ears, back towards the space behind you and down towards your hips. And just notice as you're doing that, just what is happening through the spine, that the rib cage is lifting, it's arcing back, and then it's softening, softening, softening down, and then the ribs are coming towards the pelvis, and they're lifting up. And again, the heart comes forwards, and again, as the softening of the ribs comes back down towards the pelvis. So we could observe the shoulders for a while, but I just want you to bring and encourage you just to focus up into the spine and the rounding and the arching of the spine. And as you're doing this on the floor, your head will be lifting. If you're doing this on your tummy, your head will be lifting up and your head will be sinking down. So just for a moment, again, just rest and just let your gaze fall forwards. And again, just bring your awareness to all the sensations you can feel through the neck, the ribs and the shoulders. Now picture that you would be lying on your front doing different crawls. So you're going to push maybe the left shoulder forwards, roll the right shoulder down, up towards the ear, roll it forwards. And as you do, in fact, let's just do the right shoulder for a second. Let's roll it forwards, roll it back towards the ear, roll it down. Again, get that right shoulder rolling. And again, we could think about the muscles and the ones that are rolling and lifting and the ones that are relaxing at any given time. We could even focus on that rib cage, the rolling of the ribs, the little gentle turns through the spine each time the shoulder rolls. And we can rest in the centre and take our awareness to our left shoulder and again roll it down, back, up and forwards. Down, back, up and forwards. And then when you're ready, let the other shoulder join in and allow yourself to come into a little. I might actually find this one more difficult. I'm just going to bring my fingertips to shoulders and roll the shoulders that way. I found that a little bit more elegant actually. So bring the fingertips to shoulders and again, follow that movement through the shoulders. Circling both shoulders. And when you're ready, again, just resting the fingertips down on the knees and then just bring your focus into the ribs. So when you do the breaststroke, the shoulders are doing something magnificent on the back. They are squeezing together and they are relaxing. So I just want you just to maybe imagine that just between your shoulder blades and the back of the body, you've got like another little IKEA pencils. They're not very big, are they? Just imagine that you just drop one between your shoulders and you want to grip it with your shoulders. So just squeeze the shoulder blade back. Imagine gripping that pencil. And just imagine that you could fire it out from your back and it could hit someone in the face behind you, someone who's being really noisy or they're not really good at social distancing, so you want to really get them with that pencil. So let your shoulders slide away and let the thing, and just feel that space between the shoulders. And again, gripping the shoulders together. And again, slide the shoulders away and gripping the shoulders together and sliding the shoulders away. And just picturing that when you're swimming, that when you're doing the breaststroke, this is what's happening with those shoulders. And then let's circle those shoulders again. And I thought of IKEA pencils, but they're the perfect size pencil, I think, for that little analogy. So, shall we end with a little twist? I think we should, shouldn't we? So let's bring our feet out in front of us. And drop both knees down to our left. And so if you need to cushion up as much as you need to, so if you're on that little chair thing, aren't you? So you could perch on the end of it, so you're going to turn both knees to the left. That's it. And have your left hand resting either on the what's it called? It's called the floor or the seat, whatever it is, yeah. And then your right hand, bring it onto your onto your left shoulder. And then we're going to turn our chest to look over the left shoulder. So as you do that, let your right hip lift and just notice what you can see behind you. Look all the way over your shoulder and then turn your face again just to look forwards. And we're going to do that now a few times. So squeezing your left shoulder in towards your spine, allow the chest to turn, feel your right hip picking itself up and look over the left side of the body. And again, just take yourself back to seated. So we're coming into our lighthouse little sequence, aren't we? So turning the chest around, feeling that left shoulder squeezing in towards the body, right hip picks up, take the gaze over and look over the left shoulder. Just a few times with more sensation, guiding the left shoulder back, feel how it draws the chest around and how the chest draws that right hip off the floor. And we can concentrate the coming back maybe by letting that right hip be heavy. As we did earlier, let the right hip be heavy and let it bring you back to seated. And the left shoulder again, squeeze it in towards the spine. Let it bring the chest round, let that chest bring the hip up and look over the body. And again, as you come to seated, the right hip comes back to the floor and again you take a seat. And just pause, and we're going to then add in that little extra bit. So starting with your left shoulder, squeeze it back and feel how the chest begins to turn to the left. But as you turn into the left this time, look over your right shoulder. And then your right hip, let it feel heavy, let it bring your hip back down, let it bring your chest back down, and again take a seat. And then lightly with your left shoulder, squeeze it back, let it turn the chest, and as it turns the chest, again you're looking over your right shoulder, look to your right knee. And then let your right hip relax, let it bring the chest back, and again let yourself turn back to the front of the mat. And then one more time, left shoulder guides the chest around, picks up the hip, and again look over the right shoulder. So you're looking forward, that's it. And then take a seat and pause. So now I want you, as you come down this time, just drop your hand, your chin, so it's resting on your right palm or your right wrist. And then squeezing your left shoulder back again towards the spine, it's turning the chest. And we're going to stay in this twisted position. So we should now be facing the left with our right hip off the floor and our head is resting on the back of the right hand. So what we're going to do now is lift our right elbow up towards the ceiling and let it take the head back. We're going to be arching our chest a little bit. And then bring the right elbow back down to rest on the chest and look down towards your knee. So again, staying in that little twisted position, lifting the right elbow up, let it lift the chin and arch the spine. And again, take the elbow down, keeping the hand on the back of the head on the back of the hand, again look down. We're just doing that one more time. And then turn back towards the front of the mat. Placing your right hand again back on the left knee. Squeezing your left shoulder back in towards the spine. And again, just let that shoulder turn the chest and look behind you. How much of the floor wall behind you do you see now? We're looking at different places. And then come back to seated. Just bringing your feet around to the opposite side. This time knees to right, so pointing those knees across to the right hand side this time. So again, perching on the edge of your little seat if you need to. Is that the right? I'm sure you went that way before. Knees pointing in the opposite direction. That's it, yeah. And your right hand moves to the floor or the chair, whatever it is you've got just behind you. And your left hand moves to the right knee. And again, so you're kind of looking forward, but not quite. And then we're going to bring that focus to the right shoulder. So begin to squeeze the right shoulder back. And notice how when you bring the right shoulder back, through the connection with the muscles, the left hip begins to lift and roll slightly forwards. And then relaxing the right shoulder. We can think about relaxing that left hip and letting ourselves take a seat. So again, squeezing the right shoulder back, feeling the chest begin to turn, left hip begins to pick up, looking over the right shoulder. And then relax the left hip and allow yourself to again spin back to the front of the mat. So that right shoulder through the bones, the left hip begins to move. And again, through the bones, we begin to take a seat. And then this time, as we begin to squeeze the right shoulder back, look over the left shoulder. So keep just maybe trying to look towards your left knee or towards the front of your space in front of you. And relaxing the left hip, turns the chest back towards the front of the mat. And again, this right shoulder squeezes in, chest begins to turn to the right, but you're looking over your left shoulder. And again, let your left hip relax back and bring you back to center. And just do it again, maybe a couple more times with your own breath, your own speed. And then this time, as we take ourselves to center, place your left hand over on your right shoulder. Yep. And then squeeze your right shoulder in so we turn. And then lower your chin so it rests on the back of the left wrist. And then the movement then comes from the left elbow. Lift it up as high as you want and let the spine begin to arch. Let your gaze begin to lift towards the sky. And then let that left elbow again come back down to rest on the chest. And again, stay in that twist. That's it, lifting the elbow up. Heart begins to lift. Elbow comes back down. Elbow begins to lift. Elbow comes back down. And just maybe do one more in your own time. And then allow yourself to again rotate back to seated and drop the hand again back onto the shoulder. So again, leading with your right shoulder, allow the chest to turn, let that left hip pick itself up, and again look over the shoulder, notice how much of the floor and the wall behind you can see. And just whether or not it feels like an easier movement. Is it a clearer, easier, more defined movement? And then we can allow ourselves again just to rest back into centre. And we can move into relaxation. So moving yourself back to the floor if you're comfortable, taking yourself to seated, resting on cushions if you need to, and closing your eyes. And we bring our focus to, again, the body and how it feels, just to be at rest. And using that floor as that kinetic mirror. What's the ground telling you about the body now? So then picturing as we did the spine, take your inner gaze down through the spine. Again, using that kinetic mirror to witness the hips, to witness the rib cage. Witness the shoulders, witness the arms, witness the legs, the calves and the feet. And just sensing every part of it. Sensing the hip joints. Sensing the space down the back of the neck. Sensing your belly as it rises and falls in front of you. And what you just do now is just feel your breath coming into your body and just picture that it could move in various directions. Just picture it moving up into the head as you're breathing in. As you're breathing out, just picture that it journeys down to the hips. As you're breathing again, just picture that breath comes in through the belly button and rises up to the chest. And as you're breathing out again, just picture that breath is radiating outwards. And just picture it as an energy force that floats up to the head and down the spine to the hips. And back up through the hips to the heart to the head. And then radiating outwards. Just take a few more moments again, just sensing the way your body meets the floor, sensing the place of the spine. Again, how the body is at this moment in time. And then whenever you're ready, bringing your awareness to the tip of the nose and take an inhale. And if you're lying on the floor, maybe you're just going to bring your hands and extend them towards the floor behind you. If you're taking a seat, you can bring the hands towards the sky. And finding some nice ways to roll to seated. Thank you so much for joining me today again. Very kind. Pause, stop. Yes.